This is a short story by Ann Walsh called All Is Calm. It starts off, Katie just has to take her grand to see the doctor, but that's a lot harder than it sounds. Here it starts. I don't know how it happened, but I was the only one who could do it, and it was turning out to be worse than I had thought it would be. I mean, I love my grandma. Everyone loves their grandma, right? But Gran had become, well, strange isn't quite the word. Mum said it was Alzheimer's, and she cried when she told me. It didn't seem much to do with me at the time, but believe me, as the year went by, I learned more than I had ever wanted to know about that disease. It makes people forget, not just ordinary forgetting, the square root of numbers or your boyfriend's last phone number, but serious blanking out, like the names of your children, where you live, what you do in a bathroom, or whether your bra goes on before or after you put your blouse on. Gran didn't do those things yet, but chances were she would as the disease took her farther and farther away from the person she once had been. She still had good days, times when she seemed so normal, so like her old self, that it made it worse when she went off into the whatever strange place the Alzheimer's was taking her, her mind. She'd always been a bit odd, actually ditzy, was the word my father used, but she had always been kind and funny and caring and clean. Now, well, sometimes she was really different, weird even, and I was on a bus with her at 4 o'clock on a Wednesday afternoon, hoping that today would be one of those good days. I was the only one who could take it, who could do it. Gran to the doctor. Sorry, I was the only one who could do it. Take Gran to the doctor's appointment. Mum was already at a conference. My brother had to get his braces adjusted, and Dad didn't get off work on time. Katie, Mum said before she left, Katie, she has to go. It took us months to get this appointment, and this specialist is the one who can help us get Gran into a home. He has to classify her condition as serious so that we can get her into a place where she'll be looked after properly. I can't do it anymore. I just can't. She's only lived with us for a year, but I can't handle it anymore. I thought Mum was going to cry again when she said that. She had been doing a lot of crying lately. So I put my arm around her and hugged her and said all the right things about how I didn't mind it at all, and sure it was just a short bus trip, and no, Gran wouldn't embarrass me, and we'd manage just fine. Sure, we were managing, barely. It started when I got home from school. Mom had left a note reminding Gram of the appointment, and Dad had phoned her at noon, reminding her again, but she hadn't picked up the phone, and I heard his anxious voice when I checked the answering machine. At 3:30, an hour before we had to go to the doctor's, Gran was sitting at the kitchen table in her nightgown writing Christmas cards. At least, she thought she was writing them. She'd taken the box of cards out of the drawer where Mom had stored them until next November. And she'd written her own address on every envelope. No name, just the address. She was signing it to herself when I got home, singing Christmas carols and stuffing blank cards into envelopes. In March. It took a while, but I got her dressed and we got out of the house and down to the bus stop in record time. The bus came along right away and everything was going to be okay. I was sort of proud of myself, and then she started singing again. Silent night, holy night, all is calm. Gran has a loud voice, loud and friendly, and the kind of voice you wanted to hear singing happy birthday to you when you were 9. But on a crowded bus, it didn't sound friendly, just plain strange. People turned around to stare at us, and I said, Gran, it's not Christmas. Don't sing those songs now. She looked at me and the singing stopped. Her mouth stayed open for a while, sort of caught in a phase, mother and child. And then her face crimpled and she began to cry. Out loud, cry as if I'd kicked her or told her puppy had been run over. Don't cry, Gran, I said quickly. Listen, you can sing all you want once we get home. Really. She clutched at my hand, and suddenly the tears were gone. We'll go carol singing, she said. All of us. I'll make hot chocolate, and we'll all go out in the snow and sing. Sure, Gran, I said, trying to untangle my hands from her. Sure, when Christmas comes, we'll all go carol singing. She smiled at me and gave up trying to get my hand, and I gave up trying to get my hand away from hers, and just held it and squeezed it. Gran always had a nice smile. She looked at you when she smiled too, right in the eyes, and you always knew that smile was for you and not for anyone else. Where are we going? She asked loudly. Why are we going this way? We'll get lost. It's the way to the doctor's office, Gran. I spoke really softly, hoping she'd get the idea and lower her voice too. Again, heads were turning, as people craned their necks for a look at the crazy woman who used to be my grandmother. I tried not to meet anyone's eyes. Shh, Gran, we won't get lost, I reassured her. It didn't make any difference. Stop the bus! Stop it! Right now! We're lost! She yelled. She tried to stand up, but the bus lurched away from the stop, and she sort of fell backwards into her seat. Sit down. Everything's going to be all right, I said. And then, just like the sun coming out, she smiled at me, and, as if everything was normal and fine, she said, Isn't it a lovely day, Catherine? It's so nice to spend time with you. Shall we go and have tea cakes after our appointment? You always like those sticky buns they make at the tea shop. She had come back again, just like that. One moment there was this crazy woman sitting beside me. The next moment my grandmother was back. I don't know why, but suddenly I wanted to cry too. Sure, I said, we'll go for tea and goodies. We sat there silently for the rest of the trip. Then it was our stop and we had to get off. Come on, Gran, I told her, we're here. She turned to me and her face changed again, and she grabbed onto the seat in front of her and said, I'm not moving. You're just trying to trick me. Gran, I urged, hoping that she hadn't gone too far into the craziness of the disease again. Gran, come on. The bus is stopping. I took her arm and tried to gently pull her to her feet, but she just clutched the handrail tighter. Leave me alone, she said, her voice now louder than it had been when she was singing Christmas carols. I don't know who you are. I don't go places with strangers. Come on, Gran. It's me, Katie, Catherine. We're going to see the doctor. This is where his office is. Come on, Gran. The bus had stopped now, and the other people who were getting off had already left. I stood up and I tried to pull her to her feet. Leave me alone! Don't touch me! Help! Help me, someone! I couldn't believe it. She was calling for help as if I was trying to kidnap her. Me, her own granddaughter. Gran, I said, please come with me. You know who I am. You've just forgotten for a moment. Please, get off the bus. Everything all right back there? Called the driver, and I could see him turning around and halfway raising from his seat. I've got a schedule to keep, miss. You'll have to get her off right now because I can't wait any longer. I'm never going anywhere with you, Gran said to me. I hate you. You're a nasty little girl, and I don't know why you want me to go with you. The doors to the bus closed, and the driver pulled slowly ahead. I stood there in the aisle and wondered what on earth I could do. One thing I knew I mustn't do, though, was get angry. It wasn't my grandmother talking. It was the disease, the Alzheimer's. I must remember that. Mum had told us over and over that Gran didn't mean to be cruel or to say horrible things, but the disease took her over her voice as it took over her mind, and she couldn't always control the words that she said. It's the disease speaking, I told myself. Only the disease, not Gran. Fine, but the stupid disease wasn't going to let her get off this bus, and what could I do about it? I put my arm over her shoulder. Gran, please, try to remember. It's me, Katie. The bus began to slow again, approaching the next stop. I didn't hear him come up behind me, but suddenly he was there. Hi, he said, and then stood beside me, smiling down at my grandmother. I have to get off at this stop, he told her. Can I help you? Would you like to come with me? Gran was silent for a moment, and I was too. I knew this guy, Kevin. He was in several of my classes this semester. He was tall, blond, and into sports, not a type I hang around with. He always seemed to be clowning around with a group of kids, and I had figured he wasn't worth the effort of getting to know. Just a jock who hung around with airheads. It's okay, I said stiffly. We'll manage. But Gran was smiling up at him and taking the arm he offered. What a nice young man, he said. Yes, please do help me. I think I am on the wrong bus. Kevin helped her out of her seat, then down the stairwell and out the doors of the bus. He held out his hand as she stepped down onto the curb, and she took it and smiled at him, as gracious as the Queen Mother. I think your doctor's office is this one block back, he said. Would you like me to walk with you and Katie? Katie, said Gran, for a minute. I thought she'd forgotten me again, but then she noticed me, and the gaze went from her eyes, and she said, and she was my grandmother, not the crazy woman, was back again. Why, Katie, come on. We don't want to be late for the doctor, and we're going for tea. Perhaps your young man would like to join us. She slung her handbag over her shoulder and straightened the scarf around her neck of her coat and strode off down the sidewalk, heading in the right direction, walking tall and proud and normally. Thanks, Kevin, I said. I'm sorry. And then the tears that I'd been fighting with for almost the whole bus ride won the fight, and I began to bawl. I know, he said. It's really hard. Go ahead and cry. I'll keep an eye on her. He gestured my grandmother, who had stopped in the front of a grocery store and was staring at a crate of oranges as if she had never seen the fruit before. Well, in the world she lived in these days, perhaps there weren't any oranges, or apples, or bananas, or granddaughters. I'm okay, I said. I blew my nose. Thanks again for your help. You're really great with her. I don't know what I would have done if you hadn't helped her get off the bus. Then it struck me. Here was this guy I barely knew, big shot jock and a class clown. What was he doing helping out with my grandmother? It's almost as if Kevin read my thoughts. He grinned at me. Yeah, he said, didn't you know that your grandma's my type? I grinned back. No, but then I guess I don't really know you well enough to know what your type is, do I? We'll work on that, he said. I think we have a lot in common, more than you realize. A lot in common? I began, and then I saw him looking down the street at Gran, and I remembered how patient and good he had been with her, how he'd gotten her off the bus when I couldn't, and suddenly I understood. Your grandmother, too? I asked. Your grandmother has Alzheimer's? My father, he said, and he began walking towards Gran. The doctor say it's early onset, which means it starts when someone's younger. He just turned 46. Oh, I said, I'm sorry. And I was. Sorry for Kevin and what he had to go through as his father went away to the special hell where people with Alzheimer's live. Sorry for my family and for me for what we had to go through with Gran. Sorry for the embarrassment and pain and the ugliness that was ahead and couldn't be avoided. I was sorry for us all, but I knew we'd get through it. We'd survive. But Gran and Kevin's father, they wouldn't get through it. They wouldn't survive except as lonely shadows of themselves in a world where nothing made sense and no one was familiar. I went up to Gran, who was still staring at the oranges, and right there in the middle of the sidewalk, with people all around us and Kevin staring at me, I gave her a hug. I love you, Gran, I said. I'll always love you. She looked me right in the eyes and smiled. Then, from somewhere far, far away, she said, I love you too, Mary.